Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our monthly board meeting. If we could all rise, Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, got a full agenda today, and I just want to say it's great to have everybody here. And it's honestly, it's wonderful, even if we are debating books and things like that. I still feel very lucky to be in a democracy where we can do that and do it civilly. And I know with everything happening around the world right now, it's a very stressful time. And I've heard from different students and teachers. I know they're addressing issues as appropriate in different classrooms, and it's just great to keep the students as informed as possible about what's going on, because that's what we need, is an informed future electorate. So I'm just really happy with what I'm hearing around about that. We do have a new person to introduce, and I'd like to have Patrick do that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce our new student board member, Aurora Guzzetti, who is a junior here at Morse. And each year in October, we have a new board member that comes in. So we're very pleased to have you here. And just to give you a little background, just a couple highlights. Aurora is a contributor to the Morse Gazette, member of the Morse debate team and drama club and the tennis team, just a few things that she's involved with. And in the summertime, has been a summer camp counselor at Bath Rec as well. So welcome. And I know you're nervous. You don't need to speak tonight, but we welcome you. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And thank you for the process. Patty was involved, and I know it was a competitive process this year. And I thank the SCLC and the committee that did it. It was competitive. And so congratulations, Aurora.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, Aurora. Okay. Let's start with approve amend minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
I move to approve as written.
Okay, gonna have a second? Kurt, second. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Okay. That's approved. Any adjustments to the agenda? Are we good with the order of things? Okay, this is public session, so if anyone has any questions about specific things on the agenda, they can address it now. In terms of 11.2, which is the library material challenge, we will allow people to speak at that time as well, so you don't have to address that right now. But if there was anything else anyone wanted to address, you can come up. No? Everybody's here for other reasons, okay. Start with staff report. So we've got Olympia Snow Women's Leadership Institute, and I'm going to ask Patrick to introduce our guests.
So as you know, every meeting we try to spotlight something. And quite frankly, maybe this is selfish of me, but I hear great things from students about this program. NHS induction, a lot of the students talked about it as a highlight. And quite frankly, I don't know as much as I should about this program. But again, people rave about it. And so I thought it would be good for all of us to learn a little bit more. Tonight we have Carol Ryan Ertz, who's I think the advisor for the 2024 cohort from the Leadership Institute. Kristen Ryan, Director of Networks and Partnerships. And then we have two of our seniors, Kim Inacondo and Sonia Vaselli, who are going to come up and kind of talk about the program, what it is, and how you've benefited from the program as well. So come on up, don't be nervous. And I noticed there was a lot of picture taking. We can also pause at the end and get a group picture if you'd like. So, but thank you for coming tonight, and we're excited to learn more. Oh, and also I'd just like to thank Amber McGowan too. I mean, she has coordinated this program, brought it here, and also I don't know if the funding sources will be addressed tonight, but you've been very supportive of this whole program, and it's been wonderful for our students at Morse.
So in the folders that are being passed out right now are some general statistics about the program, as well as some more specific statistics. Thank you.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, teachers, leaders, and the school board members. We stand here with privileged and are honored to present the Olympia Snow Women's Leadership, which has been making a remarkable impact on our school community. I'm Kim Minakando.
And I am Sonia Baselli. We are Olympia's leaders in the Olympia Snow Women's Leadership Institute.
The Institute's mission is to raise the confidence and aspirations of high school girls by helping them develop skills that needed to be successful in their lives, families, communities, and careers. This program is a 3-year program designed to support aspiring leaders. Each cohort is assigned 2 Olympias advisors, facilitating the meetings and curriculums, being the guidance and support. In the program's first year, sophomores will explore their self-knowledge and what they stand for through the values year. The second year, juniors strengthen their communication skills and how to be heard through the voice year. In their last year, seniors consider possibilities for their future and where they want to go through the vision year, while building relationships with other young leaders from around the state. Furthermore, Olympia's leaders have an opportunity to earn digital badging that is worth 3 college credits.
This program is more than just a program and an extracurricular. This program taught us valuable skills such as learning more about ourselves and learning our values, voice, and vision that could be applied to the real world. Students are nominated for the Institute by faculty during the spring of their freshman year. Their names are vetted by the Student Services Counselors, who then select the 5 finalists.
For those students who are considered to show a spark of leadership potential yet to be realized, are in good standing academically and socially, must commit to the 3-year program's monthly meetings, must commit to attending the fall forum held in Bangor, hosting over 500 students and plethora of business professionals, government officials, and senators now.
So in addition to the regular meetings that take place throughout the school year, each year in September, Olympia's leaders from around the state will have a chance to come together for a fall forum. This is an all-day event in which they are joined by volunteers, community members, and Olympia Snow herself to eat meals, network, and take part in breakout sessions. In these sessions, OLs gain valuable insight into the skills they will build throughout the year. This is done through presentations, discussions, and individual work. For instance, I'm a senior, and I worked on skills pertaining to my personal vision alongside my fellow seniors. With the help of community business leaders, I worked on interview skills, and using tools given to me by the Institute, I workshopped a personal vision statement. Overall, the Fall Forum, as well as the program in general, has really been an asset to my leadership skills and my confidence. Yeah.
Thank you. We have questions? Did you want to address, add?
More than happy to answer questions, but I also wanted to say thank you to our two seniors for representing us so well. We are very lucky to work. We work with 37 schools across the state of Maine, and those schools have cohorts of 5 student leaders, one of Olympia's leaders, and each of those cohorts has 2 female. And the goal is for the students to not only reflect on themselves as they shared so beautifully, but also, as our mission statement says, it's to raise their confidence and aspirations, to give them an opportunity to hear the stories of different women in the state of Maine, hear what their paths are, because I'm going to guess that most people in this room have an idea of where they were going to be when they were 18 years old, and many of us are not quite at that place that we thought we were going to be when we were at 18. And so to know as you're leaving high school that that is okay, but that you have clear values to come back to and your voice to use, and then shift that vision as you. So we're very lucky to work with such a wonderful group of advisors and teams.
Fantastic. Questions? Members, yeah, Katie?
I'm wondering what you both felt was the most impactful part. What piece of your work as leaders sort of had the biggest impact on you, or do you really feel like you'll take with you moving forward?
I would definitely say my junior year. We've learned a lot on how to use our voice, which is really important, especially when you want to give opinions and on that things that you want to like you want to be heard, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think really just in my senior year, I can really see how the 3 years have come together and helping me build that vision based on the skills I've learned in the years past, my values and my voice, and also just having the vocabulary to describe those things is really useful.
Jen, you always have a question. You always have something insightful to say.
I'm just wondering, did you get a chance to meet the senator?
She has attended, but I haven't met her personally. But this year, I think we will, because at the end of the spring like banquet, we celebrate the seniors, and each of the seniors get to meet her personally. So I'm excited.
I hope you get a chance to meet her. She's a remarkable person. I'm really glad that the foundation has this opportunity to do that. And I guess my question would be, could you ever see like being, like you'll become an alumni to like, as you graduate, would you come back and talk to other students that might be interested in this or are doing in the program ever?
Yeah, I think that'd be really awesome. I feel like whenever I try to explain about the program, not a lot of people know what it is. So I think it'd be really great to come back and just share my experiences so more people can learn about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing that I wanted to add I should have said from the get-go that we are a nonprofit, so we're not politically affiliated, even though Olympia Snow is our founder. And the Institute was founded in 2015. And so it's just growing. And I was just sharing that we're starting to see the ripple effects of the students in our community. And so the next phase of what we're working on at the Institute, because our first graduating class graduated from high school in 2018. The next graduating class graduated high school in 2019. So if they went to four-year colleges, we now have 2 classes of Olympia's leaders who are in the main workforce. And so what we're trying to do now is to keep them connected. So we just signed our first charter for an alumni chapter at USM. And so we're starting chapters on each of the campuses so the students will have folks that they recognize and are at least speak a similar language, right? So they understand like, oh, you're an Olympia's leader? I was too, or I know what that means. But we're also seeing that in the workforce because so many of our mentors are connected with the industries throughout the state of Maine, because each of the 37 schools, we have at least 2 in each county. So it spans the whole state. And so it's been exciting to see how it's been growing and how people are starting to learn about it more. So I'm very grateful that you invited this opportunity so that we could share a little bit about what we do.
It's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you so much for taking the time and for explaining all this to us. It's a phenomenal program that I didn't have that kind of detail before. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
As the advisor to the monthly young woman, that I've had the opportunity to be with over the last years, and say for me, it's a learning experience too. So it goes both ways. As much as they're getting out of this program, that those of us who serve as Olympic advisors receive just as much, and give me a lot of hope about the future that they and the communities that they are. And I'm very thankful to Morse High School and to Amber McGowan, who is like the role model for an Olympic leader advisor contact in the school for your dedication to supporting this program in your community. It's amazing, and I wish that we had had it when I was in your age.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go. You don't have to sit there and wonder when to go. Just go ahead. Okay, now we're at the student board Representative report, Caroline.
Hi, everyone. So for the report today, the boys and girls soccer teams both made the first round of playoffs that are happening, I think, later this week. The cross-country girls team made states that's happening this weekend, and Levi Riggs from the boys team also qualified individually. Spirit Week and homecoming last week or a few weeks ago, I think, was very successful. The seniors won. Homecoming was a good turnout. It was very fun. The Credit Pathways program students are volunteering at BMS within the next few weeks, I think, to educate the students on substance use. And last Friday, there were 5 10-minute plays that the students acted in, and I think there were over 100 guests, which was pretty good turnout. So yeah, that's it.
That's a lot. That's a lot for just a couple weeks. All right. Superintendent's report. Patrick.
Yeah, I know the board has heard some of this because I send you guys weekly updates, but I think it's important to just do a few highlights. Morris High School was ranked number 15th high school in Maine with U.S. News and World Report. And again, that's just one measuring stick, but it's the highest that we've been. And that's determined on graduation rates, dropout rates, state test scores, and percentage of students that take AP or IB exams, and also the scores that they receive on those assessments. And our graduation rate, which is part of that, this past year was at an all-time high. And I guess I would attribute that to all the efforts that we have here at Morse, but also with the COVID funds, we've been able to put some things in place. And so we're at the highest we've ever been, which is 95.58 graduation rate. So again, I keep saying Morse, Bath Tech as I do this. However, as students, you start in kindergarten and come up through. And so it's a tribute to all of our teachers in the district and all of our support staff for that accomplishment. Bi-monthly newsletter, we received a lot of positive feedback. You should have got one in your mailbox today. And Bill Haggett was the first alumni kind of spotlight, and we'll do those once a month, which I think is kind of nice to do. And so Kim's been working hard at that. And Gabby, our PR person that we share with Bath, has been very helpful with that process. BMS science teacher, Monica Wright. She's worked with a professional film crew last week or the week before to film a project that she does around crabs with the students. And she's been part of a National Science Foundation funded project with the Gulf of Maine Institute, Bowdoin College, and Vanderbilt University. And so it funded 12 Maine middle school teachers, science teachers across the state. And so that filming was kind of neat to see, a very professional atmosphere, and that will be shown a little bit later this year that we all should be able to see. And then lastly, I'll just mention, Julie's here, she can chime in as well, but the Bath Tech Advisory Dinner, we have people from our community or surrounding communities that are serve on each of our programs boards to provide input and to talk about the industry standards and workforce readiness. But the dinner last week, I think we had around 75 people there probably. And they had a very nice dinner that Culinary did. And then afterwards they go back to their respective classrooms and again, talk about industry standards and workplace readiness. So it's a great way to involve our community members in those specific areas. And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions for Patrick? Okay. Deb, you want to come on up? Financial report.
Okay, hello, everyone. Tonight we're looking at September, and we have spent 12.64% of our budget. So that's 5.2 million. That's a little bit lower than last year. Last year was 14.54. And as far as revenue, we're pretty much right on 22.91 this year compared to 22.19 last year. I did have the opportunity to do a budget versus actual for our new hires staff. And we are in the positive for 168,000 approximately for the teaching staff and a negative with the ed tech staff. And so, but all in all, it's 81,000 to the good. So that's a good thing. We do have one new ed tech position that we have to add that wasn't budgeted for, but all in all, we're in a positive. Just keeping an eye on substitute costs. We are up about 20,000 more at this time of year compared to last time, but we also have 3 ed tech positions open, so some of those are floating subs that have been filling in for those positions. ARP funds, we have spent we've spent $500,000, so we have approximately $1.5 million left in that. And next month, I'll be encumbering payroll. I try to wait until the first pay in November to pay the Schedule B stipends because they're paid half and half usually, most of them. And that gives us a better picture of where we'll be overall for the remainder of the year. And that's it.
Great. Any questions? Yeah, Jen.
I don't know if this is for Deb or not, but on the bottom where it says enrollment, it says Dyke Newell lost 15 students. Am I reading that correct?
Yeah.
Is that surprising? I mean,
It may
to have
just
that
be
change?
class sizes, because I think there's 4 kindergartens versus what used to be 5.
But
I
that
mean,
means
I'd
that
have to look at that.
15
detail, but-
students left the district, the school.
Well, I don't know
or-
if they left or 15
Oh.
student less maybe came in. It's probably
Okay.
a combination of, yeah.
It'd be a combination of a lot of things. I can look into it further, but it could be less kids coming to, we count our pre-K in there, but also a bigger class going up to 3rd grade, smaller class coming in kindergarten, so.
Okay. Oh, it's not, this is what we were forecasting for the enrollment, to where that enrollment actually is. Gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions for Deb? No, not yet. Too early in the year. Okay. Old business. So we have some action items here. The second reading of some board policies. Environmental safety program, emergency evacuation drills, and bomb threats. These are updating policies. Can we take them all at once, or were there specific questions on any of these? No? Okay. Well, then can I have a motion, please? Jen?
So move.
Okay. I have a second. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor of passing? Okay. So those are done. We're passed. And now new business, 11.1 CTE classification of instructional program. This is an action item, and we have Julie here. Is she talking, or do you need to?
Yeah, Julie, you can come on up. I mean, we gave you some backup here. It's really a coding issue on 2 of our programs, but Julie can speak to it real quick and then see if you have any questions. It's just something that the DOE wants to see school board vote to approve this, but.
Yeah, so all of the approved programs they use a classification of instructional program that's a federal requirement to receive federal funds. And the DOE in Maine has recently found out the 1500, which is our health science, is actually not an approved code. That's what the programs are all over the state. But there's actually, you have to choose a subsection of a specialization. And after further review with the department, CNA is one CIP code, but CNA is a 1-year program. So then we have to choose a second CIP code for the health science. And the one that we are choosing is more a general medical science program, which reflects the standards that we use. So we have to vote 1 to change the CIP code in health science and add 2 additional ones. So that one, we're going to, like in my new approved program list, we'll drop one of them and we'll add 2 more. The good thing with that one is it'll come separately in our funding, but it will basically, because of our numbers, we'll get 2 halftime programs. But with the halftime programs, we'll get supplies lines for 2 programs. And if we increase our enrollment above 13 for an average of 3 years, then we'll actually get full-time subsidy for halftime programs. So that's actually a win-win. The other one is we currently teach an architectural design CAD course or program, which is a mixture between using CAD for architecture and more of a 2D aspect. And we're finding that most of our students are going on to more of a general or applied engineering at a 4-year college or a 2-year college. So we've spoken to Orno and the whole UMaine system and SMCC to try to figure out the best pathway. So while we're changing CIP codes already, we would like to add the CIP code 15.130. Well, no, that's one we're dropping. We're going to be adding the applied engineering technologies CIP code. And if once that is approved, we will drop the current CIP code. So our funding will just be a similar.
So with the codes, does this change your curriculum at all?
It does. So for our health science program, it will not. That's kind of just like it was done wrong at the DOE level,
Okay.
and now we're fixing that. So on paper, we're not changing anything. We will be changing our curriculum in engineering to reflect more of the UMaine applied engineering technology. It's going to be more of like a mechanical engineering hands-on technology because that's what most of our students go towards, but it will still have civil engineering aspects to it. So they'll still learn AutoCAD and everything, but they will be using like the programs that industry represents.
So it's more in that direction, a little more away from what was architectural.
Yeah,
Design.
and so usually the tools that you learn using AutoCAD, you could transfer over to the architectural field, but the students will be getting more of a generalized engineering program.
Okay. And does that get changed? Like you've already changed it?
We can't change it until we get a board vote. So I've done the full application process and it was actually due on October 1st or whatever, but then they told me they'd wait for the board. So once I do that, everything goes up to the state to Ida Batista, and then she runs the numbers for EPS. But so this is the last part. My application's been approved pending the video I send them tomorrow of the board vote.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, because you're already teaching, right? Are they already doing that? Or is
We're
it just
not
the
teaching,
spring-
we're teaching architectural engineering right now.
Okay.
And so this would be a change. And so next year we have our full comprehensive school review from the DOE. And we'll be required to use whatever standards that our approved program is.
Okay. So that'll start next year.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to understand that. Okay. Any questions? So do we need a specific?
So like the last line on the backup.
Yeah. I think I actually need 2 votes though. And I think I only wrote one of them in there. So the
Okay.
last line is one of them. And then up where it says, make a change in CIP 15.1302 to applied engineering technologies 15.001. So that will have to be a separate vote. So there's 2 changes happening.
Okay. You
Wouldn't
follow?
that last line do it?
Is that for both of them?
It says both on the last line.
It's just saying the latest version of it.
Okay, yeah.
So will that be good enough to do the one? If you want 2
Yes.
votes, we'll do
Yeah,
2.
51 is going to be the health science, right? 510801, and then the 151302 is going to be the engineering, right?
Yeah,
You
think
need
so.
to be together.
I think so. I'm like, yes, I'm worried now that I got my number, because up above I
Well,
have,
one you have 15, then it
No, I
was
think it
51.
makes sense.
One, I just meant, if one you listed, it was 15.
yeah.
Then you start saying it's from 51.
I think we
to
can
six.
just say, we're changing our CIP code to reflect the applied engineering technology CIP. And the same for health science. But I don't know if that's actually right.
Let me do this. So I would say, so yeah, why aren't we, so we need a motion that'll be, that we are seeking a vote to add 51.0801 for health services and 15.1302.
That's what
I
I'm,
think it is too.
Where is that?
well,
Right
Oh,
here.
I can find my applications.
No,
so that's, so the 51 thing is wrong.
Sorry, I don't have service in here either.
All right.
you need the numbers in the
Yeah.
motion, or can you just say?
I think if we say that we're going to change to an applied engineering technology CIP,
Okay. So it's a change, so what it is a change. So the first is we are
we're adding. You can just say add, because once you add it, I can drop the other one. I just need to add one.
Patty, you got this?
Yeah.
Go ahead. She's the engineer. Go ahead.
Okay, I motion to vote to add 510801 and Applied Engineering Technology CIP program to the Bath Tech.
Okay, is that sufficient for you, Julie? That wording?
Yeah, there's actually one more to do the second
Well,
CNA.
let's do a second vote then. Let's
Okay.
not make it more complicated. Okay, so that's the first thing is to
150001, yeah.
add. And so we have a second and Jamie seconds. And any further discussion on what we're doing? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so that's now been added. Now tell us what the
I
second
need
thing is.
one more to add 51.3902 for the
Patty, can you
CNA.
do that? 51.
51.3902.
I make a motion to add 51.3902 to the Bath Tech program.
Okay. And second? Second by Jamie. Any further discussion on what this means? Everyone's on it. I know Katie's on it. Everybody else is on it. All right.
Thank you.
All in favor? Okay, you've got your votes.
Okay, thank you.
It's changed, whatever numbers you need to use.
Wonderful. I
Let us
appreciate
know.
it.
We'll get it correct in the record once you get the numbers. But you're good, and so the feds should be happy. Okay. That's that. Now, moving on, 11.2, the library material challenge. This is an action item. We've got materials in your packet from the committee, and we're going to allow folks to come up and speak to address it. How do you want to?
I think we would do it like we did before. I think we'd have Jason represent the committee
Yep.
and come up and just kind of give a brief review of the committee report, which you have in your packet. You also have the form, the challenge form, and you have the policy in your packet. And, the board, you've had the materials for a while now, and then all of you had an opportunity to read the book as well. So we'll let Jason start. That should be on, Jason, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Yeah, he was trying to raise it
A
up.
little taller, but
Okay.
I'll make do.
All right.
You can.
Good evening, everybody. As you know, I'm Jason, the principal at Woolwich. So I'm here just to kind of recap the committee's work that we undertook over the last month or so with regards to the book challenge for It's Perfectly Normal. So our committee representation, we had our school librarian, a middle school science teacher, middle school health teacher, fifth grade classroom teacher, and a community member that made up the committee that worked on this. And it is our recommendation after reading our school board policies with regards to the educational goals and mission of RSU1 and the book in question. We believe that it should remain in the professional development collection at Woolwich Central School. We have three main areas to support that decision. First is the school board policy itself. We believe this material does promote the mission of RSU1 and follows policy IJJ, which is instructional and library media material selection. More specifically, this material meets the following criteria under that policy. This resource gives comprehensive and accurate information that staff can use at their discretion to develop units of study. The information in this professional development resource enriches and supports our district's curriculum goals. This professional development resource supports the achievement of Maine's learning results and helps students attain knowledge needed to meet content area standards. We also recognize that this is written by a credible author. Roby Harris is both competent and qualified in the field. She is an accomplished author of more than 25 books for children and young adults. So several of these books focus on presenting accurate factual information to children on sexual health. She also has experience as an educator, formerly teaching at the Bank Street College of Education School for Children. In addition, the reputation and significance of the author and publisher support this as being a valid source of information. This book was written by Roby Harris, as I just mentioned, and published by Candlewick Press. Candlewick Press is a renowned publishing house for children's literature. This book is often found on best of lists. It's Perfectly Normal received many accolades when it was first published in 1994, which is the edition that we have at Woolwich Central School in our professional development collection. The lists include, was on the book list Editor's Choice, that was in 1994. School Library Journal of Best Books in 1994. Wilson Library Bulletin Favorite Reads in 1994. Boston Globe Horn Book Honor Book in 1995. The New York Times Best Book of the Year list in 1995. And American Literature Association of Notable Children's Books on their list also in 1995. So in closing, it is the belief of this committee that it's perfectly normal, meets the educational goals and mission of RSU1. It is written and published by a credible author and publisher. It has received numerous accolades and supports the education of our middle school students. We completely support its inclusion in the professional development collection at Woolwich Central School and believe it is an appropriate resource to be used at the professional discretion of our staff.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jason? And how they came up with it, what they did, what he said? No? Yeah, go ahead, Kurt. No, Jamie?
Can you define what you mean by professional discretion? Is it something that they use?
So for example, this particular piece of literature is housed just in our professional collection, so it's not accessible by any of our students. So it's in a separate room that's just houses our professional development resources that our school librarian assembles. So then it would be there if there was a unit of study within a science class or a puberty unit. It would be something that teachers could go and reference, could possibly choose to use information from that book in their teaching. So it's their discretion to do that. I would also just say that within any of those units of study, parents are also notified in advance that, you know, if it's the puberty unit coming up, they get a letter that we're going to be doing that in advance of any of those topics being discussed in school. So, yep.
Great, thanks. Kurt? Go ahead.
Thanks, yeah, I think that answers my question. Parents can opt out of lessons for their students as they've been notified.
Yeah, so that's exactly right, Kurt. That's why we send that home as that letter kind of in advance of those puberty units as such, so that if they choose that they would like to have their student learn that a different way, we would opt them out of that. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? No?
I have questions on
Yeah.
the general challenge, but do I wait?
On the actual challenge itself? Well, let's just see if anyone else wants to speak, and then we can certainly address all those. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak on the topic?
Hi, my name is Alicia, and I'm a parent of a fourth grader at Woolwich Central School. I would like to make a little disclaimer first. I was never informed when I first challenged this book and throughout the whole process that parents were notified in advance of a topic like puberty. With that being said, I was thinking if that came up, am I still going to continue with this challenge? I am, because I'm not sure the degree that parents are notified. Is it just, hey, we're talking about puberty, or is it, hey, this is exactly what's going to be said in class and you can opt out in the state of Maine? So very quickly, due to the criticism I received last year when I challenged a different book being on our library shelf, I would like to start off by making it very clear that I am not trying to take any parent's rights away. I am simply utilizing my right as a parent to do what I feel is best. And since I was so graciously termed transphobic last year, I would also like to make it very clear tonight that I am by no means genophobic. That's the fear of sex, for those of you who are unaware. After initially challenging the book, It's Perfectly Normal, I was informed by Superintendent Manuel that the book is kept in the Woolwich Central School Professional Library, which means that it is located in a room off the library designated for staff and is only available to staff as a resource. When I asked for a couple of examples of a staff member needing this book as a resource, he stated, an example of a staff member referencing this book may be for a middle level health education class. Now, before I continue, I want to acknowledge the idea that someone may argue that, well, the book is behind closed doors, so it's fine. Please let me quickly remind you that there are many things that are not okay just because they're behind closed doors. Bullying, stealing, lying, cheating, all not okay just because they're behind closed doors. And although I was pleased to hear that our children cannot directly check this book out, it still has no place in an elementary or middle school. The book, It's Perfectly Normal, hear me out, is in fact perfectly normal. It addresses topics that may be uncomfortable for parents to talk about with their children. It addresses topics that are important to learn about when the time is right. But who should be deciding when the time is right? Is that the school's responsibility or ours as parents? And is school really an appropriate setting for children to learn about topics such as sex, homosexuality, abortion, ejaculation, and wet dreams? Our children are all going to learn about this at some point, and I understand that sometimes it's probably sooner than we'd like to admit, but at the end of the day, it is 100% our right as parents to decide when these conversations happen and what they look like. Like no child learns the same, no child matures the same. Last I knew, we send our children to school to learn about writing, reading, and arithmetic. We send our children to school to connect with other children, to strengthen current skills and learn new ones, and for them to learn how to become contributing members of society. We do not send our children to school to co-parent with teachers, faculty, or staff. The book written by Roby Harris is aged 10 plus and has been controversial since it was first published in 1994. In fact, it is one of the most banned books in public schools in the past 2 decades due to its graphic sexual content. The pictures are illustrated and kid-friendly. It is full of controversial photos of nudity and sex. They are also extremely graphic. Illustrations of naked boys, girls, men, and women. An illustration of a naked woman on top of a naked man having sex. An illustration of a woman bending over and looking at her private parts with a mirror, labeling the anus and opening to the vagina. It even illustrates a comic-like scene of ejaculation. If a topic wouldn't be acceptable for 2 students to be discussing at school, if it wouldn't be acceptable for 2 staff members to be discussing at school, and if it wouldn't be acceptable as a one-on-one conversation between a staff member and a student, then it's not acceptable for a staff member to discuss it with multiple students in a classroom. The classroom doesn't magically make it okay. For example, it's one thing to talk about or teach our children about puberty and how your body might start to sweat more, or how hair may start to grow under your arms and on your legs, or for boys, facial hair. But it's a totally different ballgame when that conversation turns into how your penis gradually grows larger and longer, and how a tiny bit of sticky whitish fluid may come out of the vagina. Both direct quotes from the book. Now, before I wrap up, and I appreciate your time, I'm going to ask all of you to do me a favor and just think of a child that's important to you and that you love between the ages of 10 and 14. And I want you to imagine that they are in a health education class or a comprehensive family life class. And at the teacher's discretion, this book is introduced. Again, I was unaware that a note was sent to the parents, and I am unaware of what that note actually looks like in terms of details. Masturbation is touching or rubbing any of your body's sex organs for pleasure because it feels good. When people masturbate, they usually rub their sex organs with their hands or with something soft, like a pillow. A girl often rubs her clitoris. A boy often rubs his penis. A person may have a warm, good, tingly, exciting feeling all through her or his body while masturbating. This feeling can become more and more intense until it reaches a peak or climax. At that moment, a male may ejaculate. A female may feel strong, exciting sensations just in the area around her vulva or throughout her body. A female may also feel some wetness in her vagina. That's directly from the book on pages 48 and 49. On page 56, they move to sexual intercourse. After a bit, the female's vagina becomes moist and slippery. Her clitoris becomes hard, and the male's penis becomes erect, stiff, and larger. It is now possible for the male's erect penis to go inside the female's vagina. The movement of the penis inside the vagina soon feels very good. Ages 10 to 14. Is this how you want our children potentially introduced to some of these topics? Without your knowledge or supervision, would you want your child's teacher, counselor, or nurse going over this book in class, potentially reading excerpts like I just did, and showing them the illustrations of graphic nudity within the book? So much of this book is inappropriate, especially for this age group, borderline pornographic. If you haven't checked the book out, I highly recommend go looking at the pictures, and has no business being shown or read in our children, to our children in school. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming up. And I understand what you're saying. Everything that I know about, and I know Jason and Patrick can tell us in more detail, but it is pretty detailed when they send home a letter explaining what's in health class, and that they will be going over all kinds of everything. It's pretty explicit, because you do, as a parent, have to decide whether your child can or cannot, should or should not be in that room. Okay.
So
But there
would the-
is a difference. You say two kids talking about it is very different than being in a classroom with professionals who know how to address these issues. And for some kids, this is the best opportunity they're going to have in a non-judgmental place to hear about some of these topics. If you're a parent who says, I want 100% to do this, I don't want it in class, they don't have to attend that class. They don't have to be in it. And it is a letter that is sent home explicitly explaining the kind of topics that will be addressed. And this book, controversial, it's controversial to whom? It's not controversial to the mainstream medical, psychological, or any other association, because they've all backed it. There's a reason it's up to, what, a 5th edition? Not because it's not good, but because it is the most gentle way. The illustrations are not pornographic. I'm sorry. You may feel that they are, and that's your opinion, and that's okay. But this is ways of addressing a very important topic so that children can be safe and they can learn about this in the best way possible. So I understand that you're upset. I wish you did know that you would receive a letter when your child reaches that age, and you have every right at that point to say, I do not want my child learning this in that setting, in that classroom. I do not feel it's appropriate. If that's how you feel, you have every right to take your student out of that class.
So what is my student supposed to do during that 30 or 40-minute guidance class, or whatever class it might be?
What do we do?
Jason, you want to speak to that at Woolwich? I don't know if you've had that experience, but if you want to come up.
Well, I mean, we certainly have had experience where students have been opted out for different reasons, not necessarily for this topic, but anytime a student opts out, say they opt out of the state testing that we just completed, we would set up an alternative unit of study or an alternative activity. Would possibly be in the library, would be away from that setting where that topic or that what they're being opted out of is happening. We would work with the family, with the teacher, to create a different learning experience for them that would not be of that topic, if that's the point of discussion or conflict.
Yeah, so they're not treated like a pariah. There's students, if that given topic does not work, they just are treated to a study hall or another topic, something they can work on, worksheets, something else they can do. So we're not, forcing this on anyone.
Right. And I want to, if I can remember what you addressed a couple of times, I love hearing like devil's advocate. So like I reached out to some very trusted people in my life that have been in like public schools. And I asked like, what are your thoughts? And she knew exactly where I was going with this. What are your thoughts on like things like puberty being taught in the public school? And she's like, I know where you're going with this. She's like, it's a very sensitive subject because like you said, this is some kids' like best bet into learning about topics like this. With that being said, I don't know this for a fact, but I would like to argue that that group of children that doesn't have that support or guidance at home is the minority. And I'm not understanding why I just keep going back to a guidance counselor because the school I worked at, that was the guidance counselor's job. Why like some kind of letter couldn't be sent out to parents of said age groups, just addressing like if you need help navigating these products. I don't know why we need to talk about sexual abuse, masturbation, abortion, all topics that are in there. Like some of those topics are very sensitive topics. Like if you take abortion, I'm not even gonna go there, right? People have so many different opinions on that and there's no black or white answer. So am I gonna know exactly what you're saying to my child in that class about that? Like, are you, like, it's just inappropriate. I mean, I think I have nieces and nephews that range in the 10 to 14-year-old age, and I'm trying to picture them in a class learning about some of these topics. And I'm not saying you shouldn't touch upon a topic like puberty and just maybe get the surface of that. But the details that are, again, in this book specifically, are just they're inappropriate for that age group.
Right, I understand. I understand that's how you
And
feel.
and again,
that's-
like, that's great, but like, are you going to say, okay, so the book It's Perfectly Normal by Ruby Harris, written in 1994, is going to be introduced? Like, is that the detailed letter that I'm going to get?
They don't talk about all the go ahead, Jason. You can. Go ahead.
A couple
No,
of things
you're
if I
good.
can-
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
The letter is going to identify that we're going to be teaching a topic unit on puberty. It won't necessarily list every single resource that's been used to create that, but that's certainly an opportunity for a parent if they want to question or ask more specific details of what is going to be used or what's going to be covered. That's when we invite that conversation. You know, I can speak also to the fact that, like, a lot of the stuff you're citing in that, we're not going to use that book and just go through that book cover to cover in order to teach the topic. We would construct those topics in a very developmentally appropriate way for our age of students. When we do a puberty unit in 5th grade or 6th grade, it's covering body changes. It's not getting into sex. It's not getting into the sexual maturation of a person, other than to help them identify why they may be feeling some changes within their body. It's focused, quite frankly, it's focused much more on the social emotional needs and changes of students as they're maturing and growing through that age period. So, you know, you would get a letter that would identify the time frame in which we're going to be teaching this unit. It would probably highlight in 4 or 5 bulleted points, like I just identified, you know, the topics that would be covered. And then, you know, the closing paragraph would be to invite families to contact us if they have specific questions about what or how it's going to be covered, and or if they would like to opt their student out of that. So that's how we would cover that at Woolwich. Yeah.
Is it the school nurse that does the training, or?
So we have some of our teachers are involved, but we also have our school nurse can be involved with that. We also have our middle school health teacher that assists with that as well. And we always have, so at Woolwich, we would separate, we have 2 females that work with the young ladies and girls, and then myself and our middle school health teacher, who happens to be male, work with the boys.
So you separate the boys from the girls during the?
Yeah, just so we can talk a little more developmentally appropriate to you know, to what's happening within each.
Does that answer your question? A little bit. I mean, it's a little
Well, I
clear.
guess,
Is it
I
a
mean,
little
I just
clear
don't
because?
think. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, like, so Mr. Libby said that, like, you know, it might come out like, oh, we're going to talk about puberty, but he's not going to go into detail. Like, that's a sensitive subject. And I can't imagine that I'm the, like, only parent that feels this way. Maybe I am, but like, why is it my job to have to dig deep into what exactly you're telling my child? And I guess I'm probably a little bit defensive just because I've seen like some of the things that have been taught in schools, and you'd like to think that it wouldn't happen at a little school like Woolwich, but I'm trying to be proactive here. And in your comment about, you know, 2 students talking about a comment or a topic is different than bringing it into the classroom with like a health professional. Agreed. If my son went up to a male teacher and innocently asked him a question, and I'm just going to go back to masturbation because that made me sick to my stomach, asked him about that, I would think that that would be inappropriate for the teacher to answer my child's question. And I would like to know from that teacher that, hey, your son came up to me and asked me this just in case you want to address it. But then it's okay for a male teacher to sit with just boys, which is nice to know, and potentially talk about that topic just because they're in a classroom?
No, it's not the same thing. If someone comes up out of the blue and it's out of context, it's contextual.
No, I said it's not being out of like it's an innocent question that could be a question that comes up in the classroom.
It doesn't mean they're just going to talk about it if that happened in a classroom, because then the teacher would be concerned why that student. What we're talking about is something that is designated as time to discuss health issues, puberty, sexual health. And that is why parents are notified. And when you were notified, you have any questions, if it's not detailed enough, and I'm telling you, some of it's pretty detailed. I remember for the Bath Middle School, and I got it with my kids, I was like, whoa, they're going over okay. And I talked to the kids and said, you're going to do this, and you got any questions? Well, you know, we've talked about some of this already, and this is how it's going to be. That's fine. That's how it works. You don't have to do it. No one's telling you to do it. Equally, we're not going to prevent other people from getting that opportunity to learn in a safe environment about these topics. That's how they become healthy young people. It's how they avoid STDs. It's how they learn how to respect one another. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and we're not going to avoid those topics.
So why can't it be more of, like, if that's the case, then why can't it be more of like an after school class? Like, hey, we're going to offer this. Like, I just think it's inappropriate. Again, I think, like, I know that because when I challenged the book last year, it was a different author. I know that, like, the, what's the word they used? The reputation of the author in both last year's case and this year is like talked very highly. Like, she knew it was going to be controversial. Like, I've read about it. You know what I mean? And I just don't think that these topics and that book specifically, like, I don't know what other books are in the professional section of the library, because quite frankly, I don't have time to just sit down and go through the library, but it's completely inappropriate. Like, I don't, and I understand Mr. Libby saying that they're not going to sit down and like read excerpts necessarily like I did, but I'm sure there are more age appropriate ways to address these topics to these children, depending on grade level and age level, than this book. I'm not necessarily challenging you talking about puberty in school.
Right, we get
And I
that.
get the opt-out. I'm
So,
challenging this book, and I just,
No, I understand, and we will vote on it, and I'll let everybody comment who wants to. We understand where you're coming from. We understand what you're saying. I will also say that that's why you have, and Abby, you can tell me, is American Library Association. I forget the actual name of. It is, okay. You have professional association after professional association, whether it is about the library, whether it is teachers, whether it's all these who vet this information that say this is, and they rank it. This is appropriate for this age group. This is appropriate to be taught at this age group. You may not agree with it, but that's where we get all our information. We're not making this stuff up, and that's where it comes from. But Patty, go ahead. Did you have a?
I have an elementary school aged boy as well, and I know 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are talking about this stuff. And I know that a lot of kids don't know. They don't tell their parents. I know that these boys talk amongst themselves and they don't understand it completely. My son will ask me things, and I hear his friends say things that are completely out there, and I like, do I tell him that his thoughts are wrong? And I mean, I feel like it's a safe environment for these kids to learn, and you can't opt out of it, but there's 4th grade girls that are having their periods. I think it's important that these kids know what can happen at that age. I mean, it's young today where kids are having puberty, unfortunately, because I was much older. I had this talk when I was in school many, many years ago. So I feel like it's nothing new. It's just, it's hard as a parent to know the right time to tell your kid, you know, this is the way life is and this is what's happening. But they talk about transgender. They talk about all this stuff. 3, 4, and 5. I hear them on the playground. It's there.
no,
So-
and I think maybe I missed that part in like my little speech. I think I said that. Like, I think I said that, I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, and I don't remember this ever being in anywhere from 1st to 8th grade. I remember we had a domestic violence speaker come into high school, and we needed parental consent to listen to her. And I understand, like, our children are learning things at a way younger age, than I remember learning about them. But that doesn't mean that it's just a free-for-all to talk about at school. And I wish, I almost looked up the numbers and I'm like, no, that's going to come at another time. But there's some crazy percentage of children, a study was done, that admit to watching pornography by the age of 13, and a very high percentage of that number, like over 50%, that admit to watching it by the age of 10. So does that mean because it's out there and children are talking about it that we're just going to bring it into the school? because that's a safe environment. That is some of these conversations, again, touching the surface of some of them, I get it. But I think this book and some of these topics are completely inappropriate for the age group that it is listed in grades 5 through 8 at Woolwich, age 10 plus. And I just think that just because the conversations are out there with these young kids doesn't mean that we should just be bringing it into the school and talking about it just because they're talking about it.
Right. No, we understand where you're coming from, and thank you for telling us how you feel and where you are. I think now we're going to have go ahead.
I just wanted everyone in the room to be aware that the main state standards that we're required to teach, which is not a district decision or a Woolwich decision, as low as 4th grade in health, say students explore ways their bodies grow, change, and develop through adolescence. That's one of the 4th grade standards that we're required to teach. 5th grade, students describe how their bodies grow, change, and develop physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally. So that's the K to 5 standards for health education. And 6 through 8, that same line develops through to sexuality. And so regardless of what you all think, it's actually on our health teachers' lists of things they have required to cover.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did. And like I said, I was well aware coming in that I could opt out of any type of sex ed class. And I'm aware that the state of Maine requires they call it a comprehensive family life class in grades K through 12. But again, I think there's a huge difference. And to my knowledge, the state of Maine doesn't necessarily say you have to teach X, Y, and Z. It kind of gives that blanket topic. But like I said, with puberty, there's a huge difference in saying, hey, you might notice hair on your face, boys or girls, under your arms or on your legs, than talking about genitalia.
Right.
That just blows my mind. And I feel I don't know.
No, Caroline, go ahead.
Hair grows on genitalia as well. I think it's totally normal for a young girl, to want to know why there's discharge coming out of her vagina, to be completely transparent. It scared me when it first happened. I thought I was sick. I wanted kind of to know what was going on. People get their periods at the age of 8. Kids' penises start to grow. I mean, they want to know what's going on. I think it's totally normal to have a mirror down there or want to check out what's going on. And I agree. I think school is definitely a very safe place to learn these sorts of topics, and making assumptions that the minority of students that don't have a safe place to learn, I think it's definitely something you shouldn't assume that a kid at home can learn sex-related topics or puberty-related topics about your body. So
right. And I'm not disagreeing that of course these kids need to learn about that stuff. I'm not naive. I'm not naive to them talking about it. I'm just saying, yep, girls are getting their periods. It's scary. That's what moms and dads are for.
Well, right. But
if I don't know how to talk to my son about certain topics or my daughters about certain topics, then I know that the resources are there, whether it be a school nurse or a guidance counselor, to be like, hey, I'm having a really difficult time. Can you help me navigate this? Or even better, could you sit down and help me do these conversations? And then go from there. Again, it's this book specifically. It's not the topics. I just tended to pick the things out that made me go, whoa, when I was reading it.
Well, right.
The fact
So
that could be
I
introduced.
understand that from your viewpoint, you think it's too explicit. I get that. And so I think, we've heard where you stand, why you've, have objection to the book. What I would like to do is see what the board thinks so that we can decide how to move forward. So I thank you for your opinion, for coming in, for explaining all that. And I'd like to hear from the board on your thoughts.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you being here tonight and standing up for what you believe. And I truly do wish that a lot of kids had parents that would come to school board meetings and stand up for what they believe. So I just wanted to thank you for coming in and sharing that with us tonight. I read the book as well. I have now an 8-year-old who is new in my home, and I thought, gosh, how would I talk with her about this? Definitely not at 8, but when I looked at the photos, I was a little uncomfortable, which I think is normal because it's something that I think we all get uncomfortable talking about. I am someone who came up through Phippsburg School and had lessons in 5th grade about sex ed. I think we had it again in 10th grade here at Morse. I remember it being uncomfortable, but I don't remember learning the detail that I learned through my physician or read in the book, It's Perfectly Normal. So I understand that some of the topics are very difficult for some people, especially around sexual abuse, especially around abortion. I thought about those things and read through and also, read different articles about just the controversy with the book. And I heard a lot that it was teaching kids how to masturbate or it was pornography. And I didn't see that. I did look at this objectively. I did not see that. I saw matter of fact details about things that are really difficult to talk about. And Caroline, thank you so much for sharing what you shared, because those are the things that a lot of our kids in this community don't have parents that they could talk to. And I'll share a story. Recently, someone said to me, "Am I being neglected?" And they so were, but they didn't understand it because they didn't know anything different. And so when we talk about the sexual abuse in that book, we teach about that because somebody somewhere is experiencing that, and it might help them connect with someone who can help them out of that situation. And I think that if we're saying, it's just those kids that need to go to that class and learn about that stuff because they don't have good parents, well, that's not fair for them either. So I would vote to uphold the decision of the book review committee and keep it in the professional development library.
Okay, does anyone else want to comment before Kurt? We have a motion and it's been seconded.
Yeah, thanks for speaking. I would echo what Jamie said. I appreciate when parents come in and stand up for what they believe in or what their children are experiencing. From my point of view, I'm not a sex expert, a child psychologist. I would just go with the professional organizations and the credentials of the people who recommend this book, whether it be nationally or in our own school district, like our librarians and our health teachers. When I was a kid, I didn't want to tell anything to my parents. I didn't want to ask them about anything, especially that was uncomfortable. And I have a child who doesn't tell me anything and who's not at this age yet, luckily. But I don't know if that made me a bad kid or if it makes me a bad parent now. But the reality is that kids aren't going to want to talk about sexuality with their parents to the extent that the parents probably would like them to. And so having, what I would, I read the book too, what I would say is pretty objective explanations of what's happening to people's bodies, I think is a really good kind of baseline to set so that kids who don't know what's going on can understand it. And if they're the kind of kid that doesn't want to talk to a family member for whatever the reasons, then they have sort of a safe space to probably not talk about it, but probably hear about it from an adult that they've been going to school with for a while and that they can trust. So I would also recommend keeping this book in the library.
Any other? Yeah, I would have to say that some of, because I'm sure health class over the years has probably gotten more explicit than it did when, I know, a million years ago when I was in health class. But I think part of it too is with social media, with the fact that, as Alicia, you had said, more and more kids are, how are they getting access to porn? Well, it's, they got one of these with nothing, no guards on it. That's how. And I'm telling you, they're not teaching them anything that's right. So we really have to have the opportunities in the classes where we are explaining it, and, whether you like it or not, and, it's uncomfortable sometimes, but if we're not going to be detailed there, then the kids aren't going to get the details on TikTok and everywhere else. They're going to get stuff that is a whole different direction. So I think that's kind of where we stand. So we have a motion, we had a second. Any other questions, discussion? This is about everyone understands the motion, keeping the book where it is. Okay. All in favor of keeping the book? Okay. That's unanimous. And so again, thank you for coming. Thank you for stating where you are. Thank you to our staff for all the committee work and bringing us all the details so we can do this the right way and following our policies. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you. All right. And Katie, you get to follow this with
Yes.
instructional update.
So everyone should have this chart in front of them. I just have some numbers that had been, I believe it was Jen who asked last year to be kept sort of abreast of where we were with our free and reduced versus our change to the economic status form. So last spring, there's a letter on the back of the charts, and essentially, rather than having families be required to fill out that free and reduced lunch form where you have to fill in your income and whatnot, the state had us switch to a different form. This is the state's form, not one we created. And Matt Fry Davis and Kim Burgess worked really hard to upload all of these forms digitally. So when families enrolled their students this year through our online system, this is what they saw. And essentially, once this information is collected, they just answer yes or no to, based on their household size, do they make equal to or less than the amount on the chart? If they do answer yes, then they are seen as economically disadvantaged based on these state numbers. And so that's the new way we are collecting this information. So if you go back to the chart, you can kind of see between 2022's fall numbers and 2023's fall numbers where our enrollments are. Last year's form was the free and reduced lunch form. This year's is the economic status form. And probably the most important section would be to look at the second chart, 2023, the rightmost columns. So what is our percent economically disadvantaged as of right now? And how much did it go up from its 2022 number? Something to point out, you'll notice that there's one line that says in progress and complete records. We have, Kim pulled, thank you, Kim, all this data for me today. We have 241 families that we're waiting on for them to finish their online enrollment. And so these numbers could shift. And looking at where some of this fell before, they'll probably increase in economic disadvantage status. The only school who has 100% enrollments complete is Phippsburg on there. So Phippsburg's number is accurate at 44.7. And you can see, compared to how we were collecting the free and reduced lunch during free meal, when things changed to free meals, it's very different from one year to the next in terms of accuracy of where our families really fall, especially looking at Fisher Mitchell, Dyke Newell, Phippsburg in particular. And so essentially, that's sort of the main update I just wanted to provide, knowing we had two longer presentations. So any questions about where we are? As soon as we get more, we're going to send a letter home tomorrow, and secretaries and principals have been working really hard to get everyone so we can get as close to 100% of all of these filled out as possible. So we'll send another reminder home that Kim put together today, out tomorrow, and we'll keep you posted if this changes in a significant way.
Second, is that, you're saying we did that when you do the online registration?
You have to answer yes or no.
I guess I did, yeah, I just don't
You did.
remember. I was just happy that I was
It
one that
doesn't let you
finally,
move
no, usually
forward.
I'm the one when you say it, I'm like, oh, I didn't fill that out yet. I actually did go online and I was just impressed I was able to get on Infinite Campus, so that was a big plus. Okay, so
So again, very
that's all
short
being done
update.
because I know there was another email sent out to make sure
Yes.
people did it.
Yes.
So you're staying on top of that. That will all
Yes.
get done a lot simpler than in the past.
Yes.
So that's great. Thank
And
you.
I would say I'm impressed that, of 2,000 students, we only have 240-ish people who've not, I mean,
Yeah, that
for
is pretty
the first
impressive.
year of a new system.
Yeah.
Kudos to those who've been working really hard on this.
Thank
It's
you.
great. So-
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Jen.
So we lost Title I funding money this year.
Mhm.
With these results that you have in already,
It's a better story.
it's a much,
Mhm.
okay, and so these results are also combined with the other program participation that we already know. So those, if the family's participating in a certain number of programs from DHS, that automatically qualifies them. And then this will cover those people that are not using those programs, but self-identify as needing them.
Correct.
Okay, and so money will go in and that will provide the basis for this is the federal government says this is an acceptable way to collect data. And we're likely to see a bump in our Title I.
I hope so. I think what they've always done in years past is average 3 years.
Yeah.
So this will obviously count as a year, but I don't know if our 2 past years of lower numbers will still get averaged in, or if they will be able to waive those other numbers, knowing that districts, in addition to us, didn't have accurate percentages, and that these are likely more accurate because they're self-reported and we have a higher percentage of people filling them out. So I'm not sure of that, but it's a tricky thing. Patrick and I were talking about it earlier today, to be hopeful based on a poverty percentage, but that's how you get more money. And so this is an unfortunate problem in our area, but it helps to have an accurate perception of where we really are financially in our communities.
So we can get the funding we deserve. yeah.
Right, because then we're getting the money for the reasons we actually need it for.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions for Katie? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie. Appreciate it. Field trip requests, action item. There's a few field trips. It's in your packet. Do we need to go over them? Did anyone have any questions on these? Do you have to recuse? Is it your? Oh yeah, then don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so you'll abstain. Any questions on these field trips? Can I have a motion, please? Yes, Jennifer, so moved. I like her. Yes, do it all together and Meg, yeah, okay, Megan, good. All right, all in favor? Okay, we pass those. Have fun on the trips, good luck. Now we have a first readings of board policies. This is a no action tonight, but if you have any questions, one is admission of homeless, has to do with admission of homeless students. Another one is school closings and cancellations, which I think is an awesome one because everything was crossed out, and then the whole new, much shorter, basically, should just say up to Patrick, was great. And, we'll let you know. I thought that was appropriate. Any questions on those for tonight?
We're just missing a comma
Yeah.
on the homeless, admission of homeless students on the second page, number 4, between mental health services and case management.
Where case management was added.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thanks for that. But nothing, everyone's good with content, no questions. Okay. So we'll do that next time. 11.6 personnel items. Patrick?
Yeah, we just had 2 resignations once the school year started this year. So I'd just like to thank Mia Borsavan and David Kontz, who both were ed techs, one at Bath Middle School and one at Dyke Newell, for their years of service.
Great. Thank you very much. Board goals, we just always have this in just in case there's any reference. Jennifer, you want to speak to it?
Sure. Just in reviewing the goals, I would say that we've definitely hit the communication goal by that wonderful new district newsletter. I think that's a really great resource.
Thanks for highlighting.
Yeah. The safe and supportive schools, I think looking at those policies that we reviewed, I think those are important places for people to have comment and to see what our policies are in terms of being prepared for those instances. And the pre-K programming, I think the instructional update Katie gave us just in terms of having Title I services hopefully be better funded is the way we've met some of our goals this meeting.
And I would just add on board goals just real quick is, I think our discussion on 11.2 tonight kind of fits under that safe and supportive piece. I know it was kind of an unexpected thing, but I think it falls into that. And then the last goal that we have around the elementary schools, we will talk soon, probably at the next meeting, about the possibility of doing what I would call ed specs for the Dyke Newell and Fisher Mitchell, which is kind of a visioning process, as well as possibly getting a site, a generic site study done of the current Dyke Newell site. Just some steps, we talked about this at facilities committee, to be proactive, regardless of the state's decisions. So we'll bring that up soon.
Great. All right. Next meeting is Monday. That's what, the Monday after Thanksgiving? All right, Monday after Thanksgiving. So don't fall asleep while we're in the meeting. All right, thank you. Can I adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
All right, all in favor? We're out. Thank you so much for everything.